That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, I started today by going over this really great piece by Andy Riga, an exclusive piece in the Gazette today. Why are you laughing?
I'll tell you in a second, but
Okay.
do go on.
Talking about the OQLF deciding that now is a very important time, apparently, to go out there and find out just how things are going behind, the service counters in retail stores, restaurants, deps, whatever. And spending $350,000 to do it. I mean, it just seems so ridiculous to me. But then again, that's just me. And the thing I pointed out, Jim, is you know what? Typically, when these things are done, and again, for what it's worth, this is not new. We've been through this before many times. But the most recent one was only 2 or 3 years ago. Why are we doing this again now? So tell me what you think.
Well, Aaron, I'm sure you and a lot of our listeners used to watch the original TV series Frasier. Okay. Remember the character of Daphne, who was the maid for Frasier and his dad? And remember every now and then she said, I'm a bit sidekick, okay? Well, I'm a bit sidekick when it comes to the OQLF because I can tell you right now, and never mind the money and whatever, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just a sort of like semi-annual exercise in intimidation that the government does. It goes into various, perceived Anglo-Allo neighborhoods and makes sure that people are speaking in French. But the reason I chuckled, Aaron, is I don't know about you, and maybe it's happened to our listeners, okay, that you're doing something, you're going through your day, and then something happens. It's the most ridiculous coincidence. For a split second, you think, am I in a movie? Is somebody writing a screenplay here? And I'm because as I have Andy's story up in front of me on my screen, okay, because I like to, I like to back up what I'm saying with a few facts every now and then. And as I speak to you, Aaron, I'm on the MontrealGazette.com webpage, and on top of Andy's story, so help me God, there is a big, fat, giant banner ad from the Office québécois de la langue française.
No.
And it says, c'est pas avec un pub qu'on va sauver le français, c'est avec vous qui naviguez en français. Autrement dit, it's not with an ad that we're going to say French. It's going to be you going on the internet in English. And I just remind our listeners, I'm reading this ad on top of a story in an English language publication, okay, that is detailing how this very office is turning around and it's going to produce yet another report that will, I'm sure, is going to say French is in decline and it's time to freak out. Especially it's time to freak out in time for the coming election, Aaron. But the other thing as well is, you know what, there will, of course, be overzealous inspectors. There will, of course, be misinterpretation.
Well, Jim, they're telling us they're going to be just like us, Jim. They're going to reflect the communities that they're in.
I know. And for a second, I thought, they're going to be surgically altered to look like Anglophones. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? Because you say this stuff out loud. You got to laugh, bud, But what I liked is, because Andy was in his story, which is a really great story, folks. If you haven't seen it, go look at it because it is really informative. But the thing is, there's at one point, one of the earlier findings of these exercises, as far as I'm concerned, in intimidation, is that they describe something called linguistic profiling. And that's where Anglophones and members of so-called ethnic minorities would tell researchers, well, white Francophones would just look at me and start to talk to me in English, assuming that I don't speak French.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say it's linguistic profiling. Or on the other hand, maybe they're just being polite, Aaron. Maybe it's the same way that I always address, when I meet a stranger in Quebec, I always address them first in French. The odds are simply saying it's 8-1 that they're going to be a Francophone. That's just, I'm not bending the knee to the OQLF. I'm simply being courteous. But this is where we are. And so you've got this little planet, another little paranoid planet created by a succession of Quebec governments that have realized you can get more political mileage out of frightening people. And we're going to have this come out, and I guarantee you, folks, the findings will be earth-shattering. I'm sure it'll be leaked first. The big scoop will be over at Québécois. Le français menacé, inondé par les Anglais, blah, 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 just in time for the provincial election. But, as I say, it's perhaps my muse is wrong. Perhaps my psychic abilities aren't that good. But you know what? I don't think so. I think I'm on the money on this one, folks. And as for the $350,000, that's chump change. But what I find absolutely ridiculous is this Groundhog Day approach to doing this over and over again. We're going to go into Anglo and Allo neighborhoods, enclaves, whatever, and we're going to make sure, we're going to be shocked and appalled that people might actually be speaking English or actually using the word hi with bonjour. And you know what? Like I say it out loud. You can, I know people would get angry and whatever. I'm sure callers have already expressed their It's just so stupid. It is just so Bush League and pathetic, and you're there and you're going, do these guys not even know what they're doing? And that's why I'm laughing, because the ad is a perfect example of that. Because you know what? That ad probably be of more use talking to somebody, okay, who's perhaps not reading the Gazette. I understand they're targeting francophones who might be, God help us, looking at an English language website. But just the juxtaposition of this with Andy's story, as far as I'm concerned, strongly suggests that a lot of people over at the OQLF don't have a clue about how to do their job.
Yeah, I think we might have known that a while ago. Look, with respect to, I don't want to share a conspiracy theory here. The OQLF runs independently of the CAQ government necessarily. So this is not the CAQ. Okay.
Yeah. The government that just happened to double their budget.
Exactly, that happened to double their budget and is having an election in October. No coincidence there at all.
No, none whatsoever. And don't kid yourself. It's not like the OQLF anyone at the OQLF would perceive themselves as potential kingmakers, because let's face it, the more hysterical or the more nefarious their findings, right? Because that is going to be the bread and butter. I hate to say it, that'll be the currency of this coming election, which is too much English, too many immigrants, too much
and
of them,
getting worse. And getting worse, not better.
And getting worse, not better. And don't forget, it's going to go into high gear, because for the second time in a few days, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon has been obliged to kind of, Michael Jackson moonwalk away from the whole referendum thing by, this war in Iran, a lot of people are going to be concerned about that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can tell. And I've been saying this literally for years, but the minute he made that promise, I said, he's going to find a way to back away from it. He's finding ways. Trump's giving him excuses. The world's giving him excuses, and it will happen. I don't think it's going to work this time. I honestly don't think. I think those numbers are solid, 60% against sovereignty. I think it's going to cost them big time at the polls, at the real polls, the election polls. But on the other hand, you would think at least. I mean, I'll share this with James. The fact you and I are talking about this absurdity, and you see, and once again, it's radio silence from the liberals, radio silence from the conservatives. I find it, a bit odd. I know the older version, certainly of the liberals, you're part of that unanimous condemnation of bonjour-hi, which was a moment, I tell you, a moment of many embarrassments that the Liberal Party committed on itself in Quebec. But all that said, you think you hear something, you haven't heard anything. I guess they'll turn around. Yeah, we believe French should be protected, but in the meantime, you have these little dog and pony shows, these little aberrations, these little freak shows, quite frankly, that it should be an embarrassment to every francophone Quebecer, everyone who calls himself a Quebecer, who are supposedly being served by these, I guess, anonymous undercover Anglos who are going to go and save la nation. It is sad, and it is kind of pathetic. But once again, it's life in the magic kingdom.
But imagine, Jim, if you can for a minute, imagine they do this survey, right? And it turns out that, you know what, things did not get any worse. In fact, it's as good or better than they thought it might be. Then what?
Well, then what? You can come bring me flowers in the ICU, okay? Because that's where I'll be if that's the findings of that report.
Just saying, you never know. I mean, clearly it's not going to happen because they need an excuse to make it look worse than it is, I think. But there you go.
But it'll be so subjective, and it's so ridiculous. I didn't want to go into details because they're so ridiculous. Yeah. But the idea is, you go in. What was the greeting? What was the service? Blah 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 blah. Yeah. They have little blueprints of stores to visit in the mall, Aaron.
Yeah.
For God's sake, somebody sat down and made that little map. Are you kidding me?
That's where the focus is, Jim. Right? Let's make sure we target this as best we can for all the money that's being spent.
Somewhere in the OQLF, there's one of those big cork boards with all the newspaper clippings and the lines connecting everything. I guarantee it. That's what we're up against.
It's worth pointing. It's in the Gazette. It's worth taking a look at. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.